everybody, and welcome to Life Chats with Maggie and Bunny. I'm Maggie.
And I'm Bunny.
Well, today on this episode, we're going to talk to you about the word disappointments. How do you handle disappointments? How do you feel about disappointment? Is it okay for you to be disappointed, or how do you feel when someone else is disappointed? The whole
Mhm.
thing. Let's expand on that word of what does it look like?
Yeah,
Disappointment.
disappointment. I will say that I'm gonna start off today just by saying this because I did come up with the idea of disappointment today. For those of you who don't know or unaware, Maggie and I, just before we come on to record these, is we do have a little bit of a discussion and we say, hey, what do we want to talk about today? And I know that me personally, this is something that I've been working on is disappointments. I've been kind of looking into, the subconscious, unconscious things that I have done or situations that I put in my own life and the realizations of what happened. So when I was a kid, I did not like disappointment. Of course, disappointment is not something we set out to look for in our life. We're not like, hey, I'm going to go out and see how I can be disappointed today. So that's definitely not something I do anyway. And so as a kid, it would be things like my parents, meaning well, would say we're gonna go to Canada's Wonderland this weekend. And so I would tell all of my friends because I'd be so excited. I would tell all of my friends, we're going to Canada's Wonderland. I'm gonna go to Canada's Wonderland. I would be so excited. And then the weekend would come and something would happen. Either my parents would forget or we would do something else, whatever the case may be. And we didn't go to Canada's Wonderland. And then when I went back to school on Monday, so not only would I be disappointed because we didn't go, but then when I went back to school on Monday, I would then have to share my disappointment with my fellow schoolmates. And I'd feel the disappointment all over again because I'd be sharing with them. And so I didn't like that feeling. And I started to try to protect myself from disappointment wherever I could. And when I had my own kids, I tried to save them from as much disappointment as well. And I cultivated that in my life. And I don't know if it was the best choice. Because not only did I save them from, or what I perceived saving them from disappointment, because they still got disappointed, of course, we still do.
Mm-hmm.
I can't save
Yeah.
you from every disappointed. I also I kept them from being excited too, though.
Yeah, that's true.
And so in the world where you can hold both, I think that that's important. And that's something that I started to learn about disappointment is that the opposite
Mm-hmm.
is excitement.
That's true. Yeah. It's, I think disappointment is like anything else in life. It's something that we have to accept. It's something that we learn how to handle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it comes up differently all the time for different people.
Right.
And I think even if you're asking the question, does it feel better or worse if I'm feeling disappointed or if I have disappointed somebody?
Mm-hmm.
Which one of those feel differently? And that's something to navigate. I find at this stage of my life, at almost 65 years old, I, I have less expectations.
Yeah.
I I I kind of am at the place in my life where I can do what I want to do and not
Mm-hmm.
do what I don't want to do. So disappointment is different, but I do remember what disappointment's like.
Mm-hmm.
Even now it's different. It's, I'm going to see my kids or I'm going to see my grandchildren and my grandchild and something happens. I just said grandchildren. Am I having another one? um, and something happens that I can't go,
Mm-hmm.
then that's a different kind of disappointment.
Right.
So I think no matter where we are, and I was thinking I don't have a lot of disappointment now, but it's just a different kind of disappointment.
Right.
So Yeah, that's something to think about, is how is disappointment different at different phases of our
Yeah.
life?
Different stages, different. It's so funny, even you bringing that up, it's like different ways that we're disappointed too, with expectations and acceptance. Because I
Hmm.
think that, like, going along with not having, as like you said, as many expectations, I think it's also learning to accept what you have as opposed to what you're expecting too, also rolls into that too.
Yeah. And how does it work for personal life versus business life?
Mhm.
Like for us at Above and Beyond, if we got a client and they weren't happy with our service and they
Mhm.
were disappointed in that service,
Mhm.
we would go out of our way to make sure that somebody was happy with the value of what they got from us. And we would be disappointed if somebody was disappointed.
Right, 100%.
That's, yeah. So that's a whole different way. And I think at that respect, that's almost worse than me being disappointed, is
Mhm.
somebody being disappointed in me,
100%. Yeah.
because I can control my emotions around my disappointment,
Mhm.
but I can't control anything if somebody else is disappointed in me.
Mhm. That's interesting. It's really that's this is a really interesting time, because us, like, I'm thinking about the times where, say that, and we'll do something even, like, not small, but I should say, like, a little less significant. Um so if somebody asked you to go to a birthday party, say for example, and you couldn't because you were already doing something else, but you know that this person is so excited and would love to have you, they gave you this invitation, and having to say, like, I'm sorry, but I can't, I like, no, and meanwhile, like, that they're going to be disappointed, and it's sort of out of your control, because, like, you haven't even,
Yep.
it's not because of that, say that you're out of town, or say that you already have some other commitment, or whatever the case may be, that it's like, how do you deal with someone else's disappointment, and what does that feel like? Because I know that, as a mom for kids, um I wouldn't want to say no to my kids, even growing up, for something that they were excited about, but I couldn't say yes to everything that they wanted to do. Like, if they wanted to run across a highway, I'm not about to be like, yes, go ahead. No, I'm going to have to say no, and I can justify that pretty
Yeah.
easily. But in other ways, like, if, say that, financially we couldn't do something that they had wanted to do, and feeling responsible for their disappointment, and
Yeah.
how to deal with that.
And what is the
Huh.
root of that disappointment? What is the
Mhm.
root of that?
Right,
It's
right.
looking at what that is, because your how you're feeling is rooted in how you think they feel,
Mhm.
or how you felt at that age,
Right.
not sometimes not even in reality.
Mhm.
Because sometimes what we're disappointed about, somebody else doesn't care about. Even,
Right.
for example, when you say in that birthday party, they may not care if I can't come,
Yeah.
because there's 50 other people who are coming.
Right.
And here I am on that one side of it. I'm being concerned and being worried and being upset that they're going to be
Yes.
disappointed, but I'm only one of 50 guests.
Right.
It's insignificant if I'm there or not.
Right.
So sometimes it's looking at what that is and what
Mhm.
does that mean?
Mhm.
Because then, am I disappointed that I can't go to the party? Or am I disappointed because it doesn't matter
Yeah.
if I go to the party?
It's so funny. What kind of can of worms did we open up here with this discussion? Because it just keeps getting bigger and bigger in this, and like, thinking about the different, and not just so, like, because of course my brain goes, okay, more disappointment. It's like, even the feeling of when you voted for somebody, and then they didn't follow through with whatever it is that you expected or that you voted for, and it then disappointment in that. And right now, disappointment in government is like a big worldwide thing, or
Yeah.
disappointment in a system, like an educational system that's saying, why aren't our kids learning what they're learning, or our healthcare, all those kind of things. So we usually don't talk about these things, but like there are disappointment, and those feelings of disappointment are coming up, I think, in a lot of people in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
ways.
Yeah.
What you expected your life to be, even, that when you're growing up and you were told this is what it looks like to be an adult, or this is what's going to happen when you are, or even this is what success looks like, this is what the dreams look like in your future, and that if they don't pan out that way, how do you move forward from that
Mm-hmm.
disappointment? And I don't want to leave our listeners with just questions.
No, but sometimes it is good, because then they look at that and they ask those questions and they
Mhm.
look deeper into themselves, and that's
Right.
what we do this for, is to
Right.
start conversations,
Mhm.
whether it's with other people. And as you were saying that, I'm thinking about, you said there's disappointment, and by protecting your children from disappointment, you also stopped excitement.
Mhm.
But also on the other side of that, there's disappointment versus acceptance.
Mhm.
Are you disappointed if you just live in acceptance?
Right.
If I can't go to the party and I just accept that I can't go to the party,
Right.
if I live in acceptance, is acceptance where I overcome disappointment?
Yeah, is that the solution?
Is that where it becomes okay?
Mhm.
Because I just accept where I am. I
Right.
just accept who I am. I just accept things, you know. Now, there's many people, and we see this, and I can't believe this is going to come out of my mouth here, because it isn't something we usually talk about. It's it's like when you see people rioting and people
Mhm.
holding, um like when they go to city hall and they
Yeah.
just forget, the word's not coming to me, but anyway, it happened in our country not so long ago.
Like do you mean protests? Like that
Yes.
that sort of.
There it is. That's the
Yeah.
word that I'm having
Mhm.
trouble saying.
Yeah.
Um, is that because of disappointment? Because they're so tired of the world disappointing them. They're
Right.
so tired of political people disappointing them that they decide to protest it, and they can't accept it. So
You
they
know,
have to.
it's funny because, well, even this, so in this, what you're talking, so like, the universe is neutral. We place the meaning on it. This is how we're the creators, because we place a meaning on a situation. And so when we were talking about disappointment, um, I was thinking about, well, how could you use disappointment in a positive way? And so some people do use disappointment in a positive way by choosing to make a difference and choosing
Mhm.
to stand up and speak up. And yes, other people will choose to accept and do, in those ways, but there are like the uncomfortable emotions that we have, which disappointment definitely falls into into that side.
Yeah, I
Uh,
don't think there's anybody out there who likes it.
right, that's what I mean. We're not like,
If you
hey, how
are out
can
there
I,
listening to this
that.
podcast and you love disappointment, please write to us and let
Yeah,
us know.
yeah, let us know that there's somebody out there. I would love to find out about that for sure. But for the most part, I think people are trying not to be disappointed.
Try to
Um,
avoid it.
yes,
Yes.
and but it does, but we do feel it. So it is one of the
Yeah.
emotions that we do experience. And so having that feeling, and going through how can you use this in a positive way? Like, it's there for you for whatever reason. So if it is coming up, how can we use that in a positive way? And acceptance is obviously the end goal, I would like to say. But when we were talking, I've talked about the handhold thing. So going from disappointment to acceptance may be too big of a jump in some situations. So
Absolutely. Yep.
what could, and I think, being going out for a protest, or having your speaking your word, or having, because you could be disappointed in a lot of things. What if you were invited to a party and you thought it was going to be something that different than what you got, and then you jumped into it and you're like, well, wait a second, this isn't, does that mean you have to stay there for the whole party? Does that mean you could leave? Does
Yeah.
that mean that you got to, you could use that in a positive way by saying, I have now learned that I do not prefer this type of party, right?
Yep.
Because of the
And
disappointment.
and it's true. Sometimes disappointments are the catalyst to taking us to new and greater things.
Right.
And and even as another human example, today is my mother's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
I'm disappointed she's no longer alive.
Right.
I'm disappointed that I can't spend her birthday with her,
Mm-hmm.
but I get to today remember her.
Mm-hmm.
I get to do something in memorial of her.
Right.
I get to hold on to her in a special way that I always do on her birthday, and she died in 2017. So it's not like it was yesterday. I
Mm-hmm.
don't cry for her the same as I did in the beginning, but I still have disappointment that she's gone.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned to use that disappointment to remember the good things,
Right.
to remember all that I am because of her. And that's where sometimes disappointment does enable us to grow.
Right.
It enables us to become who we are.
Mm-hmm.
It enables us to change a situation that we maybe don't want to be in.
Yeah.
Like maybe you're disappointed because you're in a relationship that doesn't work for you.
Mm-hmm.
But what if it can be the catalyst to get you out of that relationship
Right.
or to correct some behavior that isn't working?
Yeah.
What if it can get you to induce communication?
Yeah.
You know, maybe it started out as a disappointing thing, but can turn into something good.
Yeah. Yeah. What if that disappointment shows you some part of you that you can elevate, explore, expand, with curiosity and that kind of yeah, wow. And who'd have thought when I said let's talk about disappointment that this
And
is
I
where it
said,
was gonna
well,
go.
how are we going to talk about that? This is kind of what happens in these.
This
And
is
this
what
is the
happens.
goal. And this
Yes.
is the goal of our podcast
Right.
is we never know what's going to be the end result.
Right.
We don't know where it's supposed to go or where it does go,
We just
but
trust.
we just trust and say, okay, we're going to talk about this word, this
Yes.
emotion.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just about feeling those emotions
Mm-hmm.
and acknowledging those emotions
Mm-hmm.
and deciding whether or not they're for you.
Right.
And for me, acceptance is a big one
Yeah.
because I need to accept that not only am I going to disappoint myself from time to time,
Mm-hmm.
but I am going to disappoint other people.
We are gonna disappoint.
But
I have disappointed people.
it doesn't make us any less valuable.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't change the course of time, but it can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So use disappointment as your way to see and
As your
explore and
catalyst.
expand. Yeah, as your catalyst to the world. Wow. Wow. I love it. I love it.
How disappointment changed your life. Buddy, that could be a next book.
Yes,
How
it
has
could be.
disappointment
Look at
changed
us
your
coming up
life?
with ideas. We won't tell you for sure if that's our next book or not. You'll have to tune in when we announce
Yeah,
that.
we're working on this one right now.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah, so I
that's
think
kind of it for today, talking
yeah,
about disappointment.
I think this is a good jump off for disappointment. We've left our listeners with stuff to do. Definitely, I want to just say to anybody who does listen and support us, we appreciate you all so very much.
We're not disappointed by you.
We're not disappointed by you. And if you ever want to know how you can help us out, liking, sharing, commenting, emailing us, all of that kind of stuff. So reaching out to us by email at aboveandbeyond@gmail.com, visiting our website at aboveandbeyond.com, and then following us on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, everywhere else that you can get your podcast from. Google has now changed to YouTube podcast. So there's 2 ways to find us now on YouTube, both podcast and videos. So yeah, and if you want to be a guest on our podcast, reach out.
So you don't have to listen to us talk about whatever we want to.
Yeah, or you do. And if you have ideas, if you're one of those silent listeners, because I know that we have those silent listeners who don't let us know that they're listening, but we do see the numbers, you can always just email us or comment and let us know what you want us to talk about. If you don't actually want to be a guest, you don't have to be, but if you have a topic that you're curious about, go ahead and reach out to us and let us know, and we'll do our best to accommodate.
And if you send us one that we might be uncomfortable talking about, we may or may not do it.
You're right. Yes, yes. We'll see. Or I think we can still kind of work with it and mold it and clay it and see what we can talk about.
That'd be funny. Yeah, that'd be funny. What is the one thing that somebody could ask us to talk about that we actually would never do?
I don't know. We'll have to get some ideas so we can see.
I'm trying to think what that would be.
Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted.
Well, I'm saying bye, everybody. Bye for today.
Bye.